Day 12 of reading for 15 minutes a day, Cybersecurity edition. Back on reverse engineering, we're on page 76. This time we got pen and paper, but I also made some flashcards here. So for these, I'm gonna essentially just write down key terms that I don't understand, put the definition in the back, and then try to remember these before going to bed. And every time you wake up, let's get started. So today I learned more about the kernel memory space. Think of the kernel memory as this big stack, and there's a bunch of sections on it. Each section will be used for something else. The first section that the book talks about is paged pools. We already know what pages are, and this is essentially a pool of them, a bunch of different pages. So we can pull from this section of memory to use for our paging. Now this is done in kernel mode, so only the kernel has access to this part of memory, as opposed to user mode where the user would have access to it. In the same topic, there's also a non-page pool, which is a chunk of memory that cannot be paged at all. It always has to be physically on the RAM. Not everything can be paged out. There's another section called terminal services. This section of memory is used to do remote GUI connections to your Windows system, and GUI being graphical user interface. There's also a section for the page tables themselves. And if you remember, page tables are what hold the address spaces to physical memory for a page, a chunk of memory. And the last section I got to read was system cache. This section in the stack is what the cache manager in Windows uses to be able to map the cache files over to actual memory addresses. As for the flashcards I made, there's another section called System PTE, or System Page Table Entries. Now essentially this is another section of that stack of kernel memory where it's a generic use of memory. You can use this memory for anything, but specifically drivers use this. And I also wrote down the read and write APIs for the Windows kernel. These are APIs that you can use in the code itself, most likely C, when you import those libraries over to then read and write files in the kernel space. And the other API I wrote down was mmallocate. This is a kernel API that's used to allocate system PTE memory, that section in the kernel which is used for drivers. So we allocate this memory using this API for drivers itself. Next we'll talk about section objects, what those are, I have no idea. So we'll find out together. Keep on reading 15 minutes a day. Cyberducky out.